Shit! The camera cap hit the asphalt with a sharp clack, making Emily instinctively flinch. She quickly crouched to pick it up, slung her bag strap over her shoulder, and resumed walking in long strides, tripping over her own shoelaces. The convenience store parking lot simmered under the summer sun, and she was already late. Very late. Her bag hung lopsided, the camera lens thumping against her thigh, and the heat sent sweat trickling down her neck to soak the collar of her worn-out t-shirt. In the middle of the rush, Emily suddenly stopped. Her reflection blinked back at her in the polished side of a sleek black SUV. Tinted windows, shiny paint, totally out of place in that average parking lot. She turned to face it, took a step closer, and studied her own face. Her makeup had melted, her blonde hair was a mess, and her bra was crooked beneath the slightly wrinkled white shirt. With a sigh, she lifted her chin, squared her shoulders, and stared herself down like she was trying to convince the woman on the other side of the glass. "Girl, focus. You've got this," she muttered, more to herself than the reflection. She ran a finger over her lips, pulled a nearly finished red lipstick from her bag, and applied it with the precision of someone who did it every single day, even without time or a proper mirror. Then she adjusted her bra underneath her shirt with a quick, awkward motion, hoping no one was watching, but someone was. On the other side of the glass, inside the car, Ryan Maxwell watched in complete silence. Leaning back against the leather seat, suit jacket unbuttoned, white shirt collar open, and faint lines of exhaustion under his eyes. The air conditioning blew cold, but he barely seemed to notice. His entire focus was on her. Blonde hair pulled into a messy bun, glasses hanging from her neckline, the way she bit her lip while looking at herself. None of it was staged, none of it intentional. It was like watching a raw, unfiltered moment unfold before him, a spontaneous beauty, completely unaware of his presence. Ryan blinked, hardly believing he hadn't looked away yet. She finished getting ready, tucked the lipstick away, tightened her bag strap, and rushed off, never once realizing she was being watched. She passed right in front of the SUV like a whirlwind, light and purposeful, radiating urgency and a soft scent of cheap soap. Ryan stayed still, following her with his eyes. Only then did he take a deep breath and move. He lowered the window, maybe on impulse, maybe driven by some foolish desire to say something, though he had no idea what. But before a word could form, the passenger door opened, and Jake, his driver, appeared with 2 coffee cups in hand. "Got it. And I also found out where the best coffee in town is," he said, handing Ryan a cup and adjusting his sunglasses. "Some old lady behind the counter swore the place serves coffee straight from heaven." Ryan took the cup, still staring in the direction the girl had gone. "That's so? That's what she said." Jake raised an eyebrow at him. "Everything okay?" "Yeah." Ryan forced a faint smile, but his eyes kept scanning between the cars. "Who was that?" Jake frowned, following his boss's gaze. "Who?" "The girl. Blonde hair, white shirt. She was right here a second ago." "Didn't see anyone," Jake said, sipping his coffee and shrugging. "Probably just a local in a hurry." "Want me to find out?" "No." Ryan shook his head. "Just forget it." Jake didn't press. He got back into the car and started reviewing the GPS route. Ryan, however, lingered a moment longer with the window down, staring at the glass from the outside. The same surface where she had seen herself, where he had seen her, now reflected only blue sky, surrounding pine trees, and the shadow of his own thoughtful face. Across the parking lot, Emily was already half a block away, crossing the street with her sandals clacking against the pavement. The convenience store where she worked as a freelance photographer had closed, but she had a last-minute shoot scheduled at a downtown coffee shop. A couple of engaged clients who wanted candid shots of them sipping cappuccinos and laughing in natural light. She huffed, adjusting the camera strap on her shoulder. "Of course, because natural light is never late, right?" She passed a group of tourists trying to take a selfie, sidestepped a dog tied to a bike, and turned the key in the glass door of the cafe. As soon as she entered, the owner, a smiling older woman named Linda, gave her a look that was equal parts reproachful and conspiratorial. 10 minutes late, Carter. 8 tops, Emily shot back, placing her camera on the counter. And it wasn't me. It was a SUV side mirror, way more honest than a bathroom mirror. Linda chuckled, shaking her head. One of these days, you're going to bump into someone important and not even notice. Emily gave a crooked smile. Good for me. That way, I can keep running guilt-free. Meanwhile, her image was still spinning in Ryan's head. The car was slowly making its way along the main road of Lake Tahoe, skimming past the stunning blue lake and wood-shingled cottages tucked among the pines. But he didn't see any of it. He saw the reflection in the glass, the way she looked at herself, the words she said, the determined expression, even in her most ordinary gestures. It wasn't curated beauty or rehearsed composure. It was the kind of presence that makes itself known without asking permission. And now, it was bothering him. In a good way, in the best way. Jake glanced at him in the rearview mirror. Want to swing by the hotel first, or head straight to lunch with Ben? Ryan took a moment to answer. Then he tilted his head slightly and said softly, Before that, find out where the best coffee shop in town is. Jake smiled, immediately catching on. Got it. And the car drove on. You're really going to this? The question cut through the silence of the room like a knife. Emily was holding her phone against her chest, eyes fixed on the window of the tiny dorm room she shared with her roommate at the college house. Outside, the night was hot and heavy, and the sound of other students laughing echoed down the hallway. She turned to her friend, who was sitting on the top bunk with a raised eyebrow and a bag of popcorn in her lap. It's just a party. Nothing major, Emily replied, trying to sound more casual than she felt. It was summer, the last one of college, the kind of summer people called unforgettable. The invitation had come from a fellow design student, a party at a house by the lake, open guest list, lots of people from outside. Emily didn't know anyone who actually lived in a house like that, but maybe it was time to step out of the bubble of assignments, freelance gigs, and photo edits that went on until dawn, and that was where she saw him for the first time. Ryan Maxwell was the kind of guy who made everything feel like a movie. Tall, easy smile, always holding a drink in one hand and giving his attention to someone else. He didn't seem like he was trying to impress anyone. He looked like he already had. He wore jeans and a light linen shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, surrounded by people laughing at his jokes before he even finished telling them. Emily saw him laughing with 2 guys near the deck and tried to look away, but he looked back, looked right at her, and smiled. She pretended not to notice, stepped inside the house, acted like she was looking for someone, grabbed a random drink, and leaned against the wall as if she felt completely at ease in that world. Minutes later, he was beside her. Tell me you're not drinking that box juice with cheap vodka, Ryan said, eyeing the cup in her hand. Emily raised an eyebrow, defiant. Why not? Seems pretty classy to me. He laughed, genuinely. That's what he liked about her, even if he didn't know it yet. Nothing rehearsed, nothing predictable. Unlike everyone else walking around with their poses, last names, and status, she looked like she was exactly where she wanted to be, even if she wasn't. They talked for hours, sat on the dock, dipped their feet in the water, shared a bag of stale chips, and talked about everything: photography, books, travel. He told her he'd grown up nearby but hadn't been back in years. She shared her dream of traveling the country, taking pictures of strangers and selling their stories. When the sky started to lighten and the last drunk guests were passed out on lawn chairs, Emily turned to him with a calm expression. This is the part where you ask for my number and then never call. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, slightly embarrassed. "This is the part where I asked to see you tomorrow." And he did. For 3 whole weeks they saw each other almost every day. Simple coffee dates, outdoor photo shoots, long conversations on the dock. Ryan seemed like a regular guy, even with the fancy car, the expensive watch, and the air of someone used to being catered to. Emily didn't ask questions, and he didn't offer much. In the 4th week, everything stopped. She texted, "Heading out now. Meet you at the dock." No reply. She waited for hours, at first thinking he was running late, then assuming his phone had died, then worrying that maybe something had happened. By nightfall, the lake was silent. No engine noises, no boats coming in. The next day, she went to the house by the lake. It was empty. She asked a friend to look him up online, and that's when she found out Ryan Maxwell, entrepreneur, investor, featured in lists of rising young millionaires, magazine articles about startups, tech events, gala dinners. No message, no warning, just disappearance. Emily didn't cry. She tucked away the necklace she always wore, a gift from her mom made of tiny glass beads, delicate, and never went back to that part of the lake. She made herself a quiet promise. Next time she trusted someone, it wouldn't be for charming smiles or easy conversation. 2 months later, she realized the late period wasn't stress, it was pregnancy. She took the test alone, in the bathroom of the cafe, where she worked as a freelance photographer. Sitting on the cold tile floor, she hugged her knees and stayed there far too long, trying to process how fast everything had changed. She told her dad, told her sister. She didn't tell him. How could she? How do you reach out? He had vanished like she was just a chapter not worth rereading. Emily decided to move forward. She worked, saved, bought a new camera with part of her mom's insurance. She raised Josh on her own, with help from her dad and a lot of improvising. Every birthday, every earache, every step, she captured it, kept it all, photos, videos, smiles, as if she needed to prove it was working, even without him. The necklace she kept in a small case at the top of her closet, along with photos from the summer she met Ryan. Not as a happy memory, but as proof that it happened, even if it didn't end like in the movies. And Ryan? He went back to the city, threw himself into work. The company grew, the awards came, nights turned into social events, days into endless meetings with important names. He never spoke about her. Maybe he tried to forget. Maybe he convinced himself it was better that way. That she didn't want to see him again, that she didn't feel the same, that it was just a summer fling, and summer flings end when the vacation does. What he didn't know was that, when he looked out the car window that sunny morning, he was seeing much more than a woman adjusting her bra in a reflection. He was seeing a chapter he never should have closed, and that chapter was about to begin again. "Mom, look!" Josh's high-pitched voice echoed across the small back porch of the house, followed by the splash of water and a burst of laughter. Emily looked up from her laptop screen and saw him running barefoot across the wet grass, brown hair plastered to his forehead, denim shorts soaked through. "Josh, careful!" she called out, half laughing, half worried. "You're gonna slip." He turned around with a wide grin, proudly showing the gap where one of his front teeth had fallen out a few days earlier. "I won't fall. I'm way too fast." Emily closed the laptop with a soft sigh and stood up. The day was hot, and the lake just beyond the yard shimmered under the late afternoon sun. A few kids were playing at the water's edge, while tourists glided by on stand-up paddleboards and slow boats lazily cut across the blue glass. It was one of those moments that seemed simple, but Emily tried to store it deep in her soul. Life wasn't easy, but it still had its perfect pockets. Josh ran back toward his mom, breathless. "Can I play a little longer before dinner?" "Sure, but stay near the shore," she said, brushing a hand over his hair. "And no swimming alone, got it?" "Got it!" he shouted, dashing off again. Emily leaned against the porch railing and watched. Sometimes she still wondered how things might have been if Ryan had stayed, if he'd shown up, if he had stayed in their lives, but she quickly shook the thought away. She'd done that too many times. The answer was always the same. He wasn't here, and honestly, she didn't have time for old wounds. Raising a child alone, juggling a dozen freelance photography jobs, taking care of the house, and trying to save up to open a small studio that filled every inch of her mind. Still, some wounds never fully closed, and they hurt quietly. That same afternoon, across town, Ryan was stepping out of a video conference, exhausted. The hotel room's air conditioner hummed endlessly, and the white walls felt like they were closing in. He collapsed into the armchair and rubbed his face. The lake was beautiful this time of year, but he'd barely seen it since he arrived. Meetings, contracts, decisions. He hadn't stopped once, but something inside him had started to crack. Coming back to Lake Tahoe had been Jake's idea, a suggestion. It'll do you good. Breathe different air. Get out of autopilot for a while. Ryan had agreed out of fatigue, but now he was starting to question why he'd really come back. Maybe he already knew, he just didn't want to admit it. Later that night, Jake convinced him to leave the hotel room and take a walk through town. It was Friday night and the downtown strip was buzzing. Food trucks, string lights draped between lampposts, live music, and the irresistible smell of burgers and cinnamon. "Let's grab something to eat," Jake said. "You need real food, not those protein bars they hand out in meetings." "Anything that doesn't come vacuum-sealed is already a win," Ryan replied, with a tired smile. They strolled slowly until they stopped in front of a charming ice cream shop with colorful tables out front. Jake went inside to order. Ryan stayed outside, scrolling his phone absent-mindedly. That's when he saw her. Across the street, near the sidewalk, a woman with a professional camera slung around her neck was directing a couple in wedding attire in front of a rustic wall lined with warm string lights. She was animated, gesturing with her hands, laughing effortlessly. Emily. Ryan's heart skipped a beat. He froze, eyes locked on her, and his phone slipped from his fingers, hitting the ground. The screen didn't crack. He didn't even notice. She was there, right there. And he couldn't move. Emily didn't see him. She was focused, pulling the groom gently to adjust the lighting angle. The couple laughed, charmed by her energy. Ryan took a step forward, then stopped. He felt the weight of time, of years, of absence. Jake came out with 2 cones in hand. "Whoa, did you see a ghost?" Ryan took a while to respond. "She's here." Jake frowned. "Who?" "Her, Emily." Jake followed his gaze, spotted the woman with the camera, nodded slowly. "That's her?" Ryan nodded, almost in disbelief. "That's her." Emily turned slightly, her face lit by the warm lights of the setup, her hair now shorter, her eyes still just as alive as he remembered. She looked exactly the same, and completely different, all at once. Ryan swallowed hard. "Should I go over there?" Jake handed him the cone with a sigh. "The question isn't if you should, it's if you're ready." But Ryan didn't go. Not yet. He stayed where he was, watching from a distance, chest tight, the ground under his feet unsteady. Emily finished the shoot, thanked the couple, packed up her camera, and disappeared around the corner, never knowing someone had been watching her. On the bus ride home, camera in her lap and earbuds in, she opened the photo gallery on her phone. Tapped on a hidden folder, one with only a few old pictures. One showed the lake dock, another a window's reflection with a silhouette behind it. She stared at them for a few seconds, then locked the screen. Across town, Ryan was looking at photos on his phone too, but his were of contracts, investors, spreadsheets. None of them meant anything. None of them had soul. It was as if their worlds were about to collide again, still separated by a veil of silence, time, and all the words left unsaid. "Excuse me, could you smile just a little less?" Emily said, scrunching her nose as she adjusted the camera angle. The elegant woman in front of her let out a soft giggle and relaxed her shoulders. Her husband, stiff as a statue beside her, only sighed. Sunlight filtered through the trees in the central plaza of Lake Tahoe, casting golden streaks over the well-dressed couple. It was the annual charity event hosted by local business leaders, and Emily had been hired to capture candid moments of families and important figures from the area. Nothing candid, of course, but it paid well. She moved effortlessly among the tables decorated with wildflowers and guests in blazers and loafers. Her light dress and worn-out sneakers clashed with the scene, but Emily didn't care. This was work, and she was good at it. She let the camera hang from her neck and adjusted her hair, pulled into a loose bun. Her eyes scanned the surroundings, looking for the next group to photograph, when something in the distance made her freeze for a moment. Him. His back was turned, but he was unmistakable. Ryan was near the buffet, talking with two older men. He wore a light beige blazer, no tie, and the same effortless confidence he always carried in refined spaces, as if he belonged without even trying. His hair was slightly tousled, his profile one she knew too well, even after 7 years. Emily looked away reflexively. Her stomach tightened. She took a deep breath, got back to work. "Okay, let's do one last shot with everyone saying summer," she said to the next group, her enthusiasm carefully crafted. "Summer!" They all chimed, and the smiles appeared for the camera, even though everyone knew nothing about it was real. The shutter clicked away, but Emily's mind was stuck on the man only a few yards away. As she turned to adjust her tripod, she nearly collided with a child running by with a cup of juice in hand. "Careful there, champ," she said, catching the boy before he could fall. "Sorry." The boy laughed, then darted off again. She bent down to pick up a fallen napkin, and when she stood up, she came face to face with Ryan. He was just there, like he had appeared out of thin air, wearing a hesitant smile and both hands in his pockets. "Emily," just that. One word, but it was enough to throw open all the windows of the past. She took 1 second longer than she wanted to before answering. "Ryan." He looked unsure, or at least tried to look it. Emily saw it instantly. He was still charming, still had that gleam in his eyes, but now there was something quieter. "You look beautiful," he said after a beat. "And you're still good at generic lines," she replied, steady, holding his gaze for exactly 2 seconds before looking away. Ryan chuckled, a little awkwardly. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Well, unlike some people, I never left." Silence, the kind that doesn't need explaining, the kind heavy with unsaid words. Can I talk to you? Just a minute?" She crossed her arms, letting the camera rest between them like a shield. "I'm working, Ryan." "I noticed. You've always been amazing with a camera." Emily didn't blink. "And you've always been amazing at disappearing." Another silence. He took a breath, rubbed the back of his neck, and looked down for a second. When his eyes returned to hers, his expression had shifted. More serious, more human. "I messed up. I know that. I won't pretend I didn't." "Good. Then we're clear. Now, if you'll excuse me," she turned to go. "I thought about you for years." She stopped, didn't look back, just closed her eyes for a brief moment. "So you thought about me while the world kept turning and I held everything together alone?" she said, still facing away. "I didn't know how to come back," he admitted. She turned slowly. "But you knew how to leave. That's enough for me." Before he could say anything else, a child's voice came running toward them. "Mom! Mom! Look what I found!" "Josh." He ran up, holding a small wooden toy plane. His eyes sparkled with excitement, his face flushed from the sun, brown hair sticking to his forehead. Emily crouched down, took the plane from his hands, and smiled, trying to seem natural. "Where'd you get this?" "It was on that table over there. They said I could have it." Only if you promise not to lose it, okay? Okay. Josh wrapped his arms around her neck, and Emily hugged him tightly. When she looked up, Ryan was still there, frozen, still, eyes locked on the boy. His expression changed, eyes slightly wide, face shifting like he'd just taken a punch. Emily saw it, and for a moment she also saw the exact second he put the pieces together. He didn't say anything, neither did she. Josh ran off again, and Emily remained staring at Ryan. The silence between them was different now. It was the silence of revelation, of weight, of everything that was about to unfold. "You're not going to tell me, are you?" Ryan's voice cut through the quiet of the small cafe, muffled only by the soft murmur of conversations and the hiss of the espresso machine. He held a coffee cup in his hands, but hadn't taken a single sip. His eyes were fixed on Sarah, who stirred sugar into her own coffee with almost deliberate slowness. "Tell you what," she replied without looking up. "You know." His voice was firm, but there was something restrained in it. A caution Ryan didn't usually show in his business meetings. "You work with her. You know the kid. Don't pretend you don't know what I'm asking." Sarah finally looked up. She set her spoon against the edge of the cup and met his gaze without hesitation. "Why now, after all this time?" "Because I saw him." Ryan took a deep breath, like admitting something he didn't even want to say to himself. "And I know. I saw it in his eyes. I saw, in the way he moved. It was like seeing myself at 7, running down the dock by the lake. It's crazy, but it's real." Sarah kept her gaze steady, showing no surprise. "And what do you want from that?" "The truth." She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. "The truth?" she echoed, louder this time. "The truth is, you left without looking back. That Emily spent night after night not knowing where you were, what had happened. That she found out she was pregnant alone. That she stayed." Ryan closed his eyes for a second, his jaw tight. "I didn't know. Do you understand? I had no idea." "And if you had," she asked, "what would you have done? Sent money? Called from the airport?" "I would have come back," Sarah scoffed, unconvinced. "You never came back, Ryan. Not one call, not one message. She waited for you on that dock. She stood there, phone in hand, thinking maybe you were just running late. And before she knew it, it was too late." Ryan leaned forward, eyes suddenly glassy. "I was a coward, I know that. I was launching the company under pressure, and when I realized how I felt about her, I panicked. It was easier to run than face it. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm trying to figure out how to fix it." Sarah shook her head slowly. "It's not you who needs to figure anything out, Ryan. It's her. And, yeah, he's your son. Josh is your son." The words hit like a silent avalanche. Ryan didn't move, didn't react. Just let the sentence settle in his soul with all the weight and truth it carried. "How old is he?" he asked, almost in a whisper. 6. Silence. He rested his elbows on the table, rubbed his face. When he looked back at Sarah, something in him had shifted, like everything inside had just rearranged. "I need to talk to her. You can't just show up and expect answers like you're entitled to them. You don't know what she's been through." "I know." Ryan stood. "But I'll listen. For the first time, I'll actually listen." Hours later, Emily was leaving the photography supply store with Josh at her side when she saw Ryan leaning against a car across the street. Her heart jumped, but she stayed composed. She squeezed her son's hand and crossed with steady steps. "You can come in, but only for 5 minutes, and not in front of him," she said before he could say a word. Ryan nodded. Josh headed upstairs as soon as they got in. Emily told him to brush his teeth and said she'd make him a snack after. Once he was out of sight, she turned to Ryan, who still stood in the small living room bathed in late afternoon light. "Talk," she said, voice flat. "Spit it out." "I know Josh is my son." She didn't react, didn't even blink. And I, I don't even know where to start. I was a coward. I disappeared. I left you waiting. I let everything real slip away. And now I get it." Emily crossed her arms. "Getting it doesn't change anything. I want to know him." She took a step forward, firm. "No." Ryan looked like he'd been slapped. "I just want to see him grow, to help, to be there." "Help?" Emily laughed bitterly. "Do you have any idea how many times I needed help and had no one? When he had a fever and I couldn't miss work. When school needed an emergency contact and I had to lie and say his dad traveled for work. When he asked me at 3 years old why Father's Day felt different for him." Ryan swallowed hard. I didn't know." "You didn't know because you didn't want to know. You left. You decided I wasn't even worth a goodbye. You knew my name. You knew where I lived. You could have found me." He tried to step closer, but she stepped back. "You're just like your father," she said, eyes shining with tears that refused to fall. "You know how to leave, and then come back like nothing happened." That hurt more than he expected, because it was true. Ryan sat on the couch, hands trembling. "I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that man. Give me a chance, Emily, just one." She stared at him, eyes cold. "This isn't about you. It's about him and everything you missed." Ryan lowered his head. "So what do I do?" "Leave. Emily, go, now." He stood, hesitant, unsure what to do with his arms, his eyes, his body. Before he reached the door, she added without looking at him, "You broke everything, and now there's no easy fix, no fast one, no guaranteed one." The door shut behind him with a soft thud. At the top of the stairs, Josh peeked through the railing. He didn't understand everything, but he understood enough. "Keep your arms steady, Josh, just like that. Yes, now pull slowly, that's it, you got it." "Nugal." The boat rocked gently beneath their feet, and the boy let out a squeal of excitement as the silver fish glistened at the end of the line, still flapping on the surface of the water. Ryan held the fishing rod with one hand and used the other to help Josh keep his balance. The boy's face lit up with pure joy. "I did it! I really did it!" Josh jumped up laughing. "You did awesome," Ryan said, carefully removing the fish from the hook before releasing it back into the lake. "That's your first catch. That calls for a celebration." They were in the middle of Lake Tahoe, under a clear blue sky. The sun shimmered on the calm water, and the rental boat swayed softly, surrounded only by birdsong and the rustling of distant trees. Josh wore a life vest, a cap, and a smile that seemed impossible to erase. From the top of the slope, Emily watched them from a distance. She stood on the lakeshore with her camera around her neck and a coffee in hand, but she couldn't focus on anything except that scene. Josh and Ryan on the boat, laughing, talking, fishing. She had resisted, pushed back, fought hard against it, but Josh had begged so much to accept the boat guy's invitation that she gave in, out of curiosity, guilt, or maybe a small flicker of doubt that refused to die. Ryan had been trying, that was true, and in ways she hadn't expected. The week before, he'd shown up at school with a brand new easel and paints for Josh's art teacher, who had been working with scraps for years. He didn't tell anyone. It was the principal who later mentioned it to Emily by chance. The next morning, she found a basket left quietly on her porch with new LED lights for the community studio she helped run downtown. A simple note, unsigned, "You deserve to work with good light." But even with those gestures, Emily kept her distance. With every move Ryan made, she built another wall. She knew she couldn't let him in easily. It couldn't be simple. Back on the boat, Ryan reached out for a high five, and Josh eagerly smacked his palm. "Can I tell Mom I caught it all by myself?" "Of course. Just don't forget to tell her you were the master of patience," Ryan said with a wink. "And you, did you always know you were my dad?" The question caught Ryan off guard. He looked at the boy, then out at the lake. It took a few seconds before he answered. "No, Josh, I only found out recently." Why didn't you come sooner? Ryan took a deep breath. Because I made a really big mistake, and it took me too long to understand that. Josh was quiet for a moment, then said, "But you're staying now." Ryan looked him in the eyes. "I'm going to try. If your mom lets me, I'd really like to stay." Emily turned away before she could hear her son's answer. Hours later, as she organized photos from a recent shoot on her computer, the intercom buzzed. It was Sarah. "Someone's at the door, and it smells like pizza." Emily walked down barefoot and opened the door. Ryan was there holding a pizza box and wearing a sheepish expression. "Josh said you like margarita, with the crust slightly burnt. Did I get it right?" She crossed her arms, leaning against the doorframe. "And you think that's going to make up for everything?" "No," he gave a small smile. "But maybe it'll buy me 5 minutes of conversation while you eat a slice." She hesitated, then opened the door wider, letting him in. In the living room, Josh was already on the couch with a game controller in hand. Sarah grabbed a slice and headed upstairs with a whispered good luck as she passed. Seated at the table, Emily and Ryan ate in silence for a few moments. "You're trying," she finally said. "I can see that. It's all I can do. For now. And what if I said I still don't trust you?" "I'd understand, but I won't give up." Emily stared at him for a long moment. "You know what happened to my dad." Ryan shook his head. "No, but I want to, if you're willing to tell me." She pressed her lips together, then began, "When you left, he tried to convince me to go after you, said I needed to fight for it. But I was too proud, too hurt. When I found out I was pregnant, he was the one who helped me. Held me up through the crying, the decisions, the shame." She looked away. "But a few months later, he had a stroke. We didn't have insurance. I dropped everything to take care of him and Josh at the same time. I was 22 with 2 people depending on me." Ryan listened, eyes heavy, but didn't interrupt. "He died the following year. I couldn't even afford a proper funeral. A neighbor organized a fundraiser. And you were on magazine covers. Entrepreneur of the Year, the next tech visionary." Ryan lowered his eyes. "I didn't know I hurt you that badly." "You didn't destroy me," she corrected flatly. "I rebuilt myself, even when I was broken, even when I was alone." He nodded slowly, as if accepting a sentence. "I don't want pity or apologies," she continued, "but if you really want to be part of this now, you're going to have to prove it every single day." "That's all I want," he replied. At that moment, Josh ran into the room, holding the wooden toy plane. "Mom! He showed me how to make the plane spin in the air. Want to see?" Emily smiled softly. "Go show him outside." Josh grabbed Ryan's hand, and the two went out to the porch. Inside, Emily watched them through the window, outwardly composed, inwardly torn. He was trying, but she still didn't know if it was too late. The meeting was moved up. "They want your answer by 9 tomorrow." The sentence dropped like a stone in the center of the silent room. Ryan looked at Jake, who stood with a tablet in hand and a serious expression. Morning light filtered through the windows of the rented cabin, casting a soft glow on the rustic furniture, a sharp contrast to the tension between them. Ryan took a deep breath, stepping away from the window. Outside, the lake was calm. Josh and Emily weren't there that day. He had promised her he'd give them space, that he wouldn't push. But now everything felt like it was closing in. "They want me to take over the expansion presidency?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Yes. That includes the new European division, full company control, and, well, a 19% increase in equity." "And how many months away?" Jake hesitated. "At least 8, maybe a year." Ryan took a step toward the unlit fireplace. He ran his hand over the dark wood in silence. "You've worked for this your whole life," Jake said, choosing his words carefully. "This is your chance to lock it all in. And now you deserve it." Ryan let out a humorless laugh. Deserve it? I don't even know what that means anymore. Jake stepped a little closer. It's just business. You've done this before. What's different now? Ryan looked at him directly. What's different is that now there's a kid who runs to show me a wooden airplane every day, who calls me Dad in this shy little voice, and a woman who learned to survive without me, but somehow still lets me be near her. Jake looked away. Hard to argue with that. They're going to want an answer. I already have it. That evening, Emily was at home, folding laundry on the couch while Josh lay on the carpet drawing. The TV played softly in the background, filling the room with a comfortable hum. Then there was a knock at the door. She glanced at the clock, her heart squeezed a little. She opened the door. Ryan was there, wearing an expression she couldn't quite read. We need to talk. She let him in. Josh looked up from across the room and waved. Ryan smiled, returned the wave, and then turned to Emily. This morning, my company offered me something huge, a role I've chased for years, a contract that would double my net worth, an empire, but it meant leaving. Again. For almost a year. Europe, meetings, mergers, the full package. Emily said nothing. She waited. And I said no, he finished. The air seemed to freeze for a moment. You... what? I turned it down. Signed my resignation this afternoon. I'm out of the company. Ryan, that was your whole life. No, it was the life I thought I wanted. But the truth is, I never built anything real until now. Nothing that made my heart race. Not until I met Josh. Not until I saw you again. She took a step back, confused. So what are you going to do? Start over, here, with what's left, with what I have, and maybe with what I still have a chance to earn. Emily looked at him like she didn't believe it. You gave up everything. Everything that never filled me. Yes. She raised a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed, then walked past him to a shelf. She opened a small box at the top and pulled out the old necklace, the one with the tiny glass beads, the one she'd worn the day it all began. I kept this, even though I didn't know why. Because part of you still believed in something, Ryan said softly, even if it was buried deep. Josh appeared beside them, curious. What's going on? Emily knelt down and pulled him close. Your dad, he made a very important choice today. Josh frowned. Is he going away? Ryan knelt too, eye level with the boy. No, I'm staying, if you want me to. Josh smiled shyly, then threw his arms around him. Emily stood there holding the necklace, trying to process everything she felt. It was fear, it was relief, it was pain, it was love, all at once, a mess of it. Ryan stood with Josh in his arms and looked at her. I can't change the past, but I can promise I'll never walk away again. She nodded, eyes brimming. Then it starts tomorrow, 7 a.m. I have a sunrise shoot and need someone to take Josh to school. I'll be here at 6:30. Emily smiled, tears finally falling. And bring coffee, strong, absolutely. What once was uncertainty was now becoming a promise, not spoken in grand declarations, but built in actions, in presence, in real sacrifice. Don't move, you're going to smudge everything. Emily's voice rang out between bursts of laughter as she tried to fix the tiny tie around Josh's neck. He squirmed impatiently in front of the bathroom mirror, dressed in a crisp white shirt, suspenders, and hair slicked with a little too much gel. The boy huffed with every attempt his mother made to make him look more presentable. Mom, I don't want to look like a waiter, he complained, trying to loosen his collar. You're going to look like a gentleman, she replied, gently tightening the knot. It's a wedding, not a day at the playground. But it's not even our wedding, Emily laughed. Thank goodness. Otherwise I'd be way too nervous to get you ready. Josh looked at her through the mirror, curious. Would you be nervous if you were marrying Dad? She froze for a second, surprised by the question. Then she smiled, running her hand through his hair to fix it again. Maybe just a little. But you like him, right? I do like your dad, yes. Josh seemed satisfied with the answer. He turned back to the mirror, twisting side to side as if admiring himself. Emily crouched down and pulled a small case from a drawer, the same one she had kept for years. Inside, carefully resting, was the necklace with the tiny glass beads. She picked it up, looked at it for a few seconds, and fastened it around her neck. The delicate piece shimmered in the soft light of late afternoon. "Ready?" Sarah's voice called from the living room. "Almost," Emily answered. "Let's go, Josh, before the bride gets there, before the photographer." They came down the stairs together, and in the living room, Ryan was waiting. He wore a light grey blazer and a navy blue shirt. When he saw Emily with the necklace, his eyes paused for a moment. He smiled, subtle, as if that one detail said more than any declaration ever could. "You look beautiful," he said. "You look decent," she replied with a half smile. Sarah grabbed the car keys. "And you two are late. Let's move." Ryan's sister's wedding was being held lakeside at one of the most picturesque venues in town. He had insisted Emily be the event photographer, not just for her skill, but because he wanted that moment, symbolic in so many ways, to have her perspective capturing it. As guests settled into rows of chairs arranged on the grass and soft instrumental music played, Emily moved with focused precision, positioning her camera. She moved like she belonged in that space, with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Josh ran between the chairs with other kids, watched over by Sarah. Ryan, meanwhile, made the rounds among guests, chatting casually, though his eyes kept searching for Emily. Midway through the ceremony, during his sister's vows, he walked up slowly and whispered, "Can I steal you for a minute after this?" "Depends. Will you give me back?" "Maybe. No promises." She bit her lip, trying not to laugh. After the ceremony, while the celebration continued beneath strings of lights draped between the pine trees and soft music filled the air, Ryan led Emily down to the edge of the lake. The sky had begun to turn soft shades of pink and lilac. The reflection on the water was calm, mirror-like. "Remember where we met?" he asked, pointing toward a spot farther along the shoreline. "How could I forget? I had a camera almost slipping out of my hands and a crooked bra. And I was sitting in a car, not knowing that scene would change everything." Emily looked at him, her smile slowly growing. "It changed you?" "Absolutely everything." He pulled something from his pocket. It was the wooden airplane Josh had gotten weeks earlier, now with a little blue ribbon tied around its tail. "Josh gave me this morning, said it was to remind me to stay." Emily touched the toy with her fingertips. Her eyes filled with tears. "So, are you going?" "No." Ryan stepped closer. "I'm staying, if you'll let me. If you both will." She took a deep breath, holding back the wave of emotions. Then she removed the necklace from her neck and held it in her fingers. "My mom used to say this necklace was for protection, that I should wear it in moments when I needed courage. And now? Now I think it's done its job." She placed the necklace around Ryan's neck. "Your turn to be brave." They stood in silence, looking at each other. Behind them, the lake reflected the scene like a hand-painted portrait. Josh came running over. "Can I say something?" They both turned to him. "You're staying now, right, Dad?" Ryan smiled. He knelt down and held the boy's face in his hands. "Forever." Emily sat down at the edge of the dock. Ryan and Josh sat beside her. No one spoke for a few minutes. Only the sound of water, rustling leaves, and distant music filled the air. The sky darkened slowly, and in that moment, everything that needed to be said already had been. Yes, the past had been harsh, But the new beginning was here, somewhere between a crooked bra, a wooden airplane, and the kind of love that against all odds had waited.
What it meant to you. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. This is really important for the channel. Really important. And if you're ready for another story of love and hope, click the first card or the second one to watch the full playlist. See you there.